This week, Apple launched the iPhone 16. One of the most powerful storms in a decade is ripping through Asia right now. Nickacado Avocado pulled off one of the most insane social experiments, and people still don't get it. Something massive is happening in New York right now, and I, as you can tell, am in Vegas. And honestly, this place is one of the most messed up places I've ever been. All of that and more in this week's Las Vegas special, so we better, and don't you think I forgot about it, get cracking. Okay, let's go. Now let's kick today off with one of the craziest stories, honestly, the internet has seen in a while. Now by now, you've probably seen that the YouTuber named Nickacado Avocado lost about 250 pounds, even though he was quite literally famous for being fat. And even though, yes, the weight loss was impressive, that's not even the point. You see, before he dropped that video, I pretty much knew nothing about him. Like, the clips that I've seen of him was just doing ridiculous shit on like TikTok and YouTube. Like this. And you know, I saw that kind of stuff and I thought, fine, you know, that content is definitely not for me. And for anyone like me who doesn't really understand or didn't know his backstory, essentially he was a violinist, a person that plays the violin, and you know, he started this YouTube channel where he began mukbangs, I think that's what you call it, and you're just eating on camera essentially. And at some point, I think he realized, you know, the fatter he got, the fatter the views became, and the fatter the checks started coming through. And here's the thing, you know, from what we can tell, he's not just some guy that was accidentally getting fat. Not only did it seem that he was deliberately getting fat, but he was also showing it off and purposefully acting in ways, as you can see by all of the wild shit that I'm playing you right now, would generate a lot of hate online. Probably in person too. Now, you can't sit there and tell me that something like this was real and is really him.
Papa John's Pizza. Papa John's Pizza. Papa John's Pizza.
And you see, that's what's so crazy, because like at the time, you know, why would someone purposefully make themselves one of the most hated people online? Well, for most of the time, people, you know, just shrugged their shoulders and continued hating because people couldn't resist. Honestly, I don't think I really blame them. Like, how could you not with some of the shit that he posted? But here's where things get really interesting, because at one point, and I'm sorry, I don't really know the exact date of this video, but it's clearly not recent, he says this, and listen carefully because it's pretty important.
2 steps ahead. I am always 2 steps ahead. This has been the greatest social experiment I've come to know. Certainly the greatest social experiment of my entire life. To bear witness, to observe all these unwell, unbalanced, disoriented beings roam the internet in search of stories, in search of ideas, of conflict, of rivalries, where people develop a distinctive desire for direct engagement, where people feel involved with the stories, and therefore become product of influence. I woke up this morning to money deposited into my account. We're simply not doing something. We're simply not going through with something. People are the most creatures on this planet, and you will continue to consume, and I'll continue to be 2 steps ahead.
And then, years later, he follows that up by posting the video of him obviously skinny, almost saying the exact same thing.
2 steps ahead. I am always 2 steps ahead. To observe all these unwell, disoriented beings roam the internet in search of stories.
He basically said that he has a backlog of content, about 2 years worth, that he continually posted while he was in the background losing all of this weight, and that he's been 2 steps ahead of everyone the entire time, and this whole thing was a social experiment. And judging off of those 2 clips, years apart, saying the exact same thing,
2 steps ahead. I am always 2 steps ahead. This has been the greatest social experiment.
It suggests that this social experiment he was running was not just the weight loss, it was the weight gain too. And that is the part right there. Love him or hate him, it's a really goddamn good wake-up call for anyone that negatively engaged in his content or negatively engages in anyone's content that is like this. You see, since social media really started paying money, we kind of transitioned into this attention economy. And what's unique about this attention economy is that you don't really have to sell a good product that customers are satisfied with to still make money. You can still make money by selling a shitty product. In fact, you can create something that's free and it makes someone's life just worse. But it is faster and it is effective as hell. Pretty much everyone out there right now, whether that's a business, a content creator, anyone that needs influence or needs your attention, your likes, your money, well, they're doing this. And sometimes, it's not all negative. Sometimes it could be positive, like learning something or, watching something funny. But when people started realizing the consumer doesn't even really need to like it, they just have to watch it, that's when the introduction of all of, these words like rage baiting came along or brain rot. People started making content that appeals to all of your negative emotions like hate and disgust. Because nothing gets your attention quite like those two things. And it doesn't seem to matter, for these people, whether it makes your life better or worse. As long as they make their money, they don't care. And what Nickacado Avocado has just done, I believe, is probably one of the most grand scale examples of this we've ever seen. It seems that over the years, he has purposefully played into the hate that people were giving him, made millions of dollars off of it, disappeared for 2 years while still getting paid, let's not forget that, and then comes back, loses all of the weight that people were hating him for, and it's not just the weight, it's the way he was acting too. And now we'll probably make millions more off of that too. I mean, just at the time of recording, his weight loss reveal alone, that one video alone, 32 million views, with an RPM of roughly $3 to $4, that's pretty normal per 1,000 views. He will make between $100,000 and $130,000 on that video alone in about 2 days. That is crazy. Point being of all of this is that Nick is not the only one doing this. There is just too many to count nowadays, and if you genuinely dislike or hate what they're doing, just don't engage, just don't watch, because, commenting hate or something like that, it is no good for you, and it isn't any good for anyone else, because rage baiting and brain rot content just thrives off of that hate, like Nickacado Avocado literally just said himself. So yeah, anyway, that's that, and let's move on. Okay, next story. Apple just announced all of them brand spanking new features that are coming to the iPhone 16, and hot take, I'm actually going to buy it because, let me tell you why. Not an ad. That kind of sounded like an ad. Okay, firstly, let me talk about a feature, right, that I know is going to get overlooked by everyone. Live streaming emergency calls, right? How is that not a game changer? You're chilling there, you're about to get attacked by some person. 911, here's the attacker, and it's live streamed, right? Here's the attacker that's about to attack me, right? How is that saved? Facial ID, cop. Anyway, aside from that, as you can see by the iPhone 16's design, pretty much unchanged on both models, but as usual, they've got new colorways, so yay. They took the action button from last year's Pro models that was supposed to be this big, amazing thing, and then generously passed it on down to this year's peasant models for free. How nice of them. They've also added a new camera control button, which is actually not a button, something like that, which you can whip out your pocket. If you click it once, it opens the camera, click it one more time, takes the pictures, hold it, you get video, and then a little cheeky half a press, which is why I was saying it's not an actual button, it's like a sensor, and it'll allow you to open controls like zoom, exposure, and then a finger slide will allow you to adjust those controls. The Pro models have the largest display ever and the thinnest borders of any Apple product. Humble flex. As expected, they made the general improvements to the battery life and to the camera, but most notably out of all of those things, you'll be able to shoot 4K slow-mo on the Pros for the first time ever, so that's pretty cool. But if all of that just isn't that impressive to you, well, that's because Apple's main selling point for all of these iPhone 16s is Apple Intelligence. That's the game changer, and that's why they've hired 50,000 new employees and ramped up production, because they believe everyone wants to buy this. They've literally built all of these phones from the ground up specifically for Apple Intelligence, which is why they included a brand new A18 chip, which is specifically designed to handle all of these new AI capabilities. And because that chip is only on the 16s, that means some of those brand spanking new AI features will be exclusive to the 16 because of that. For example, take a picture of your homework and ask ChatGPT to Help me out, bro. Take a picture of a product and it'll tell you exactly what it is and where to buy it. That feature is called consumerism, final boss. It can write emails for you, make it sound a bit more professional. You find information from old texts. Search through your, oh my lord, 4.8 billion, pictures for one specific thing that you're looking for. And even if you're looking for a specific thing in a specific video at a specific point, you could do all of that just through describing it. That feature, if you want to know, is called Thank God AI Doesn't Judge You. I mean, the summary of all of this yap, basically anything that you want to do on your phone, you could now, with the capabilities of AI, ask Siri to do it for you. That is pretty damn impressive. And that's why, personally, I'm copied, because I use my phone every single day for work, and a built-in assistant, boy, would that may save me a bit of time. I'll name it Alex. Why am I naming everything Alex? I'll name it Siri, okay? That's that. But if you are not trying to become a freaking LinkedIn warrior, it'll probably just end up being more of a fun feature for you. And the question is, how much would you spend on just a fun feature? Because these are the prices for both models, and they will be available on Friday for pre-order. So in a couple days time for you when you're watching this. So the question is, hearing about all of this, did Tim cook with the iPhone 16, or is Tim cooked? Moving on. Okay, I want you guys to watch this eerie footage. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, is that some freaking, scene from 50 years after an apocalypse? But no, I found out it wasn't, because it's actually drone footage from Mulan Bay, not to be confused with Mulan from Disney. Anyway, it's a place in China, right? And these are their giant turbines that have been blown over by Typhoon Yagi, aka one of the strongest typhoons to batter Asia in the last decade, right? Serious. Yagi is not a fun name, it's a serious name. Anyway, early last week, China had to evacuate over 400,000 people after naughty old Yagi came along with the thunder. And if you're not familiar with typhoons, basically, this super typhoon is the equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane. Yagi ain't playing no games. All schools in the area were shut, W. When it made landfall, trains, boats, and flights were all suspended, L. And all tourist attractions were shut. Depending on where you live, that's a W or an L. The winds near its center reached a staggering 145 miles per hour. That's incomprehensible. Those numbers are so large, it doesn't even mean anything to you right now. And when that typhoon hit China, it was double as strong as when it killed 16 people in the Philippines the previous week. Oh, and Yagi wasn't done there. Over the weekend, it officially arrived in Vietnam, and boy, it caused extreme damage yet again. This busy bridge in northern Vietnam, for example, collapsed, plunging 10 cars and 2 scooters in the river, 3 people of which, have been rescued and found, luckily, but 13 are still missing. In other areas, 44 people were killed by landslides and flash floods. A bunch of fishermen were swept out to sea and are still missing. Roofs have been torn off, trees uprooted, 240 people were injured, and around 1.5 million people, as of recording, are still without power. Now, this storm is weakening, but it is moving westward, and the flooding and the landslides are being warned to have continued, and we're not out the woods yet. Well, Asia. Anyway, we need to move on very swiftly because there's a lot of news we need to catch up on. All right, let's get to the New York news. What the hell is happening? Something big is the answer. But what exactly? No one really knows. Just listen to this. So this week, federal authorities and the FBI raided the homes of the NYPD commissioner, as well as several other high-ranking officers. And it's not just police. Other top New York officials had their homes raided too, the first deputy mayor and the deputy mayor for public safety. What are you up to? Now, they didn't give a reason for these searches, so sorry about that. But reports say that electronics and cell phones were seized. That's never good. New York's mayor himself, Eric Adams, wasn't raided, right? But he was issued with a subpoena, meaning that he's either being ordered to testify against someone or provide evidence for something. How crazy is that? Just think about it. These are not just some random people getting their homes raided. These are top officials that are running shit. Now, there is speculation that these raids had something to do with corruption, but nothing's been confirmed yet, so don't take that as gospel. Anyway, no matter what you want to think, something big is about to happen. Of course, when it does drop, I'll keep you guys updated. Moving on. Here's something that's wild, and no one seems to know that it also happened this week. China just hosted 50 world leaders from Africa. And keep in mind, there's only 54 countries in the continent. So it's fair to say that China pretty much invited the entire of Africa just for a quick chat in China. Let's gather. What should we do this weekend, Xi Jinping? I don't know. Maybe let's speak with the entire continent of Africa about some crazy. You want to know what it's about? Let's get into it. You see, Africa is a continent that is very rich in resources, right? And the rest of the world is looking at Africa and they're like, we need your resources. And for a while, China's been the main country like frontiering this and trying to become best friends with China because of this. Sorry, with Africa. Hear that in the comments. What? They're trying to become best friends with China? What is China trying? I get it, okay? I fixed it. If I see one comment about that, I'll be furious. Anyway, China have been investing staggering amounts of money in Africa's development. But recently, because of China's slowing economy, that funding, that never-ending tap, kind of trickling a little bit now, staggering. So, classic, cheeky little America sees that and they're like, well, maybe this is our time to jump in and become best friends with China now that, you know, China... Did I say China again? I meant Africa. USA wants to become best friends with Africa, right? So America starts whacking out their checkbook, to counteract China's influence in the continent. Because America also needs Africa's resources. Both of them need these resources to power this green energy transition. But when China sees America trying to swoop in and become friends with their best friend, they say, hell no. So they decide to have this massive summit, invite everyone, and make one message very clear. Don't look at the USA, choose China. Damn, that's a good slogan, actually. Choose China. And at this summit, they made some pretty big promises. They said that we're going to give you 50 billion in financial support, not forever, over the next 3 years alone. They want to create 1 million jobs there, tens of millions in food and military aid, and that's just like very, very tip of the iceberg of things that they promised Africa. So yeah, America and China, two world-leading superpowers, both vying for Africa's resources. And, they're hot property right now. Let's just hope that all of these deals that are being made are fair, right? Moving on. Now, another story that broke literally the day that I arrived here was the Georgia school. Now, it's been quite a bit of time since that all kicked off, so I'm not going to rehash all of the details and all that. You probably heard it by now. And if you want to see all of that, it's on my TikTok. But essentially, if you haven't heard, a 14-year-old boy named Colt Gray, 14, let me stress that, went into his own school with a gun that his father gave him for Christmas and opened fire. 4 people died. 2 of them were students. 2 of them were teachers. Both he and his father were quickly arrested. The boy is facing life imprisonment for first-degree murder, and his dad is facing 180 years in prison for second-degree murder, amongst other things, including child neglect, something like that. Now, as for a motive, officially, we don't know. But based on an interview that police had with his dad over a year ago, that's a crazy story, it's on my TikTok, Colt was apparently bullied relentlessly at school. Other kids called him gay. I don't know if he's actually gay or people just called him gay because that's one of the things that people call other kids. But it got so bad that he wanted to move. His parents were also pretty horrendous as well. His mother was a drug addict and, is probably still a drug addict and spent a bunch of time in jail. And she wasn't even allowed to see him because of how messed up she was. And his father apparently wasn't any better. Colt's grandfather blamed the dad for all of this, and he said that he was evil and he deserves not just life in prison, but the death penalty. So yeah, obviously none of this information comes even close to justifying any of his actions, but it's just to give you a tiny perspective on how messed up a human can become. Anyway, moving on, because we need to get to some rapid fire news. I can't really scream in this hotel because someone will come to the door and probably think that I'm abusing Maddie. Rapid fire news. Elon Musk announced that an uncrewed Starship mission to Mars will be within the next 2 years, and a crewed mission is planned to follow in 4 years' time. He said that we're going to go to the moon, we're going to have a base on the moon, and then we're going to send people to Mars and make life multi-planetary. So, he also said that the Tesla Roadster would be out by now, and that hasn't even been seen yet. He also said full self-driving would be here like 4 years ago. Nah. So, 4 years on Mars will probably be about 20 years. Next! Remember the owner of the universe and the appointed son of God that the FBI was searching for in the kingdom of God? Yeah, well, they found him and arrested him. They did a lot of searching in that big old hunk of chunk place, as you'll probably remember, but they found him and Next! Remember that Chase money glitch that actually turned out to just be boring old financial check fraud? Well, turns out, I made the joke back then, the internet trolling people into going to jail. Well, it turns out they actually are. Because Chase has decided we're not just going to charge people the money back. They've actually decided to report what they called thousands of incidents to law enforcement. I didn't think it was thousands. I thought, oh, maybe a few hundred people would fall for this. No, thousands. Now, the punishment for this type of crime will depend on its severity of how much people decided to withdraw and depending on what state they live in. But in California, that's about a year in prison and fines. In New York, you're looking at 3 months in prison and fines. Oh, remember that Boeing spaceship that, had mechanical problems and stranded those 2 poor astronauts up in space? Well, they decided this week to just give up, right? We're gonna give up and let's not even try and fix it. And it arrived back down to Earth without the astronauts in it. This week. The astronauts themselves are still up in space and they'll come back on Elon Musk's spaceship in February 2025. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to them. Next! Also this week, there's an international manhunt going on for some nut job that decided to throw hot scalding coffee onto a baby and then fled the country. The unprovoked attack happened in Australia at a park, and there's even video footage of the suspect fleeing the scene. The 9-month-old baby suffered burns to his face and arms, and police are asking everyone internationally, if you see this man, tell us. Report it. Next! And then lastly, as you can tell, a bit of me news, I'm in Las Vegas. And this place, is genuinely wild. Now, you probably don't know this about me, because why would you, I guess? But I don't party, I don't drink, and I don't gamble. So, why am I even here? Well, it's kind of a bucket place list, right? And boy, is it interesting. Like, everyone should experience Vegas at one point in their life, even if you don't want to party and gamble and all of that. Because just seeing how this city was made up is fascinating. It is literally designed from even the way that they designed the streets to make you gamble and spend money. For example, they have all of these bridges, to cross the road. You don't just have a regular cross the road kind of street. Most of them bridges, right? But to get on this bridge, you have to go inside a building which has shops, which has nice air conditioning because it's hot as shit outside, and most importantly, slot machines. So every time you want to cross the road, you're tempted to go back inside. They lure you inside. You're also allowed to smoke inside the casinos, which is something I thought was banned like decades ago. But no, they allow that because they don't want you to have to leave the place to have a smoke break. No, stay inside. Do it right here while you're clicking the spin button. Oh, and even if you want to go up to, get a drink from the bar, right? You leave your slot machine, you go up to the bar. There's a slot machine in the table of the bar that you can continue playing on. You literally cannot have a single break. I mean, and that's just like a couple things that come to my mind. There was so many more when I was thinking about it. But I'm not going to jump into it here, in fear of making this video too long for Alex, and then you guys flooding in and be like, late. I get it, okay? Don't you think I forgot? For anyone that does, like the video. Otherwise, my temporary whipping fear tool, like the video or this will happen. Put one of them on the bed. This is getting weird. Put them on the bed. Okay, I think that's it for the video. I love you guys. I am getting on the flight tomorrow, so wish me a safe flight, and I will see you when I'm back at home as soon as possible, probably in a couple of days' time. Who knows? Love you. Bye. 41 minutes, not too bad. Back to the old days. So, Alex, play the intro that we got from then. 3, 2, 1, rapid fire news. Don't play that. Don't play the rapid. I just feel like I know Alex. You're gonna play the little boring rapid fire news. There's a little mini bar thing here. Look over here. You see that devil thing right there? Talking about how crazy Las Vegas is. It has a feature in there, and I've never seen this in my life before. If you pick it up for longer than 60 seconds, it automatically charges it to your room. And you want to know how much a freaking bottle of water is? $8. You want to know how much a Red Bull is? $10. Don't touch that thing with your life.